Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order. Our first piece on our agenda is the approval of last minute's meetings. Give you a second just to make sure that you've read over those.
I have 3 housekeeping
All right.
changes.
Thank you, Aaron.
Mike, would you like to note these? I have 3 housekeeping changes on on the minutes. 4, sorry, 3.
Hang on a minute. The mayor stole my pen. There it is. Okay. Okay.
Item 4B, line 1, 2, 3. Line 4 starts with the word project. I just thought we should clarify where it says, including the building, the first stage of the ride park. So that will eliminate the in front of building.
Okay.
3 lines further down with the dollar amount on the right-hand side. I believe that's supposed to be $1,697,000, right?
Yes.
Okay, it says 1.697, 556. I told you these are housekeeping. And then 6C, Regional Facilities Report. Second line, from the KCC. So is that the report from the KCC? Or?
Is it what?
It just says from the KCC.
Oh, the report?
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's a report. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other corrections? All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes then?
I'll move to approve.
A second?
Second.
As corrected. Yeah.
As corrected. Yep. All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, our minutes
And
have been
who seconded?
approved.
I'm sorry.
Bill.
Okay. Thank you.
At this time, we have a time period for public comment. Do we have anybody on the list tonight who wanted to make comment?
Yes, we do. And would like to call the esteemed mayor of the city of Port Orchard, Rob Putonsu.
I see a microphone, so I'll just speak up, I suppose.
All right, welcome, Mayor.
And I just,
We are taping it, though. Is there maybe a portable one?
Let me check. We don't mic on the stand. We have a-
If they don't have a portable one, does anybody object to asking the mayor to come up and speak into one of the mics up here?
No.
All right. Why don't you do that? Come on up.
just gonna let me speak into one of the microphones here.
There you go.
Improvise.
Welcome.
All right, welcome. Welcome to Port Orchard, even though we're in the county building. So I figured I'd pop in since you were in my neighborhood and give you a little update on where we're at on RILA and the request for proposals. I thought I would have a draft copy to share with you tonight, but we were still wordsmithing Friday afternoon. And I believe we will have a consultant hired, or at least the process to interview those consultants by March, first week in March. And the only significant, and I'll get that to Mike later this week. I'm going to share it with our city council tomorrow night at our work study. And what we're doing in the RFP, so we're not stopping and starting, is there's through that first 4 steps in our agreement, there were 6 or 7 steps in our agreement. It will be one consultant and have one consultant manage that whole process. So it'll be a little more seamless. We'll still have check-in points. And with that, we were a site was described in the things we've seen, and that was proposed by the developer, and that could be the best site. And I think we owe it to the public to take a step back. So part of our RFP process too will make sure that that's the best site and that we haven't overlooked something since there wasn't a process to identify the best sites. So that's really kind of where we're at. Not a lot to report, but we are moving forward, and I would hope sometime in March that we've got a consultant on board and you guys are approving a contract, and we're moving forward. So that's my report. And questions for me?
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can have you pause just a minute, Darren.
Yes.
This is the signatures folder. The first page in here is one that everybody can sign first because it's the permissions for signatures for this year. You sign up here and also down below.
Okay.
The second is the payroll voucher, and this can be signed now that the minutes have been approved.
All right.
And then the rest will flow. One other agenda item, if I might. I was informed that Carrie Bozeman's wife's birthday is today, and normally he would be farther down in the order after.
I'm okay.
You're sure?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Because we can ask the people that are presenting for their EventFund grants to wait a little bit so that you can.
Fine.
Okay, then for John, here we go.
Is there any other one who would like to make public comment tonight? All right. Moving on to number 4 then, Event Fund presentations. I'd like to ask Sunny Saunders, the Food Truck Festival, to be our first person to share. Is Sunny here tonight?
Sunny is not here. She had said that she was going to be out of town. I'd asked if there was someone else that could present for her, and I have not had that forthcoming. So that will get postponed until the next meeting.
All right. Moving on to 4B, Junebug Flea Market, the Burley Events Group, Jane Buchanan? Buchanan, yeah, there we go. Buchanan. Jane, welcome. Would like to ask you to keep your additional comments to 5 minutes tonight, and then the directors here will have questions as it results from your presentation, and we'll go on from there.
Jane, if you want to come up and speak into this microphone, we'll capture that on tape.
I think it's going to be fairly awkward to bend down and talk into that. So if you'd like to sit where Mayor Bozeman did, or excuse me, Mayor Patansu, yeah, sorry for conflating. There's going to be a new race for Port Orchard.
Right here? Yes, please. All right. Well, I'm Jane Buchanan from the Junebug Flea Market, and our Junebug Flea Market and fundraiser will be held at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds on Friday, June 5th from 4 to 8, and Saturday, June 6th from 9 to 5. Our group is called the Burley Events Group, also known as the Junebug Flea Market, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. I'm sorry, 501c4 nonprofit. This is our 5th annual Junebug Flea. We began in 2016 in a small community hall in Burley, Washington, and because we outgrew that space, we moved to the fairgrounds last year in 2019. In 2020, we will have over 50 vendors, and as always, 100% of the money raised during the event from admission fees, donations, and raffle ticket sales will be donated to our 6 animal rescue beneficiaries: Chew Dog Rescue, Harbor Hope Cat Rescue, Heartwood Haven Farm Animal Sanctuary, Kitsap Humane Society, Rabbit Haven, and Sunrise Equine Rescue. In 2019, we raised $13,500 for the animals, and our goal for 2020 is to raise $25,000. We rely on vendor fees and sponsorship fees to fund our event. Last year, we were a one-day event, and based on ticket sales, we know that we had at least 2,200 shoppers, and probably more, as many people did walk in the side doors without paying, thinking it was a free event. So this year, we will be a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday, and we are projecting 800 shoppers on Friday and 3,000 shoppers on Saturday for a total of 3,800. We are going to work our hardest to exceed this number, but for planning purposes, we are estimating 3,800 attendees. Our advertising will cover all areas of Western Washington with increased focus on the greater Tacoma and Seattle areas. We will be targeting conventional market demographics for the flea market shoppers. Plus, we will reach out to statewide vegan groups like the Seattle Vegan Connection and animal rescue groups like Old Dog Haven and Okanogan Rescue Group for their support. Last year, we delivered raffle prizes to shoppers from Tacoma, Kent, Issaquah, Linwood, and Gig Harbor, and we will be expanding in those areas and more. We will be offering discount 2-day tickets online, which we think will encourage people to spend Friday and or Saturday nights in hotels. We'll also be partnering with the local hotels such as Oxford Suites and offering a weekend shopping package. In addition, many of our vendors spend Friday night and possibly Saturday night in hotels too. If only 3% of our projected number of shoppers stay overnight, along with a portion of our vendors, we estimate that we can have 125 people staying in hotels that weekend. We are requesting $5,000 for help with our advertising campaign. Our overall marketing budget, $6,827, includes graphic design work, 25,000 postcards, 1,500 posters, $1,500 in boosted Facebook ads, and $2,522 in an everyday direct mail campaign, which we refer to as EDDM. In our application, we used a scenario of 7 cities as an example for the EDDM budget coverage. We used Port Townsend, Paulsbo, Bainbridge Island, Kingston, Port Angeles, Bremerton, Silverdale. But the possibilities are endless for mixing and matching target areas to include parts of Tacoma and Seattle, for example. The EDDM budget of $2,522 will reach 13,491 people at a cost of 18 cents per person. In the future, in order to generate more income, we will raise our vendor fees, and more importantly, we will continue to attract more corporate and private sponsors in order to become more self-sufficient. As our profile grows, our ability to sign up sponsors increases. We think our Junebug will continue to thrive in future years as more and more people are drawn to our unique marketplace for shopping, as well as a growing number of pet lovers who will come to support our animal rescue efforts. Thank you for this opportunity and for considering us. We really appreciate it.
Jane, thank you for coming and thank you for sharing.
Sure.
I was thinking as you were speaking too, for those who might be in the audience tonight or viewing on television, our event fund, the purpose of it is to support organizations that are using the public facilities districts that we have helped to fund and trying to promote tourism and economic spending here in Kitsap that renews that very tax base that we draw from to build the facilities. So as a word of explanation of why we have an event fund. And I believe we have 25,000, is that correct, budgeted for
Correct.
this year? And so your request is for 5,000. Do we have any questions for Jane?
Jane, how much did we fund last year on it? Do you recall?
From you, you funded 5,000.
Was it 5? Thank you.
And was that the first time that we had funded? Okay.
Yes, because we were in Burley for 3 years. We started in 2016, so last year was our first year at the fairgrounds.
Yeah. Well, I love that you give 100% of the proceeds away. That's wonderful
you.
to help these different organizations and to help these different animals.
Thank you. And actually, one of our animal rescue partners, Katya, is here. And did you want to, would it be okay for her to make just a couple comments?
Sure. Why don't you come to the mic so that those who are watching on television can see you and hear you?
Stay or?
No, stay.
Hi. Thanks. My name is Katya. I'm with Heartwood Haven. I'm one of the co-founders, and we're one of the benefactors of the Junebug Flea Market. Also, last year we were heavily involved in planning and marketing the event. The year prior to that, the last year at Burley, was the first year that we were invited to be involved with the market. So we've seen it grow from an event that attracted 1,000 people to an event that more than doubled the attendance to over 2,000 people. And I think that the projection for next year to get to 4,000 attendees is very, very much reachable. And I think that, as already mentioned, one of the really great things about this event is that it does benefit animal rescue groups. It benefits 6 different animal rescue groups across 3 different counties, and attracts animal lovers from all over the state. And this really is an important piece of funding for animal rescue groups like our animal sanctuary. I'm with Heartwood Haven. It really helps our yearly funding budget. And yeah, thank you.
All right.
Which group were you with again?
Heartwood Haven Farm Animal Sanctuary.
Any other questions for Jane? All right. Well, thank you for presenting.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to now invite up Samantha Smith from the Country Fair Vintage Market, Josephine's.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you. My name is Samantha Smith. I own Josephine's Mercantile, located in downtown Port Orchard. I've done events in the past called Redeem Revival, which you guys have sponsored, and I did it for 3 years. And last year was the first year that I did not ask for the funding. And last year, in the last 2 years, I would say there's a huge shift in the market. And so this year, I'm coming up with a somewhat new idea. I think if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, it kind of gets old and stale in the vintage field. And so I am collaborating with Karen from the Valley Vintage Flea Market in Paulsbo, and we're doing a Vintage Country Fair Vintage Market this year. Typically, our event is the largest event at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds next to the fair itself. Last year, our numbers dropped, and I realized something needed to change, and so we're changing a lot of aspects. The biggest thing I'm taking a leap of faith on is changing the date. Vintage markets are in a rotation. And so to change the date, you've kind of given up your lock in that area, but we're also changing a lot of aspects of the event. The biggest things that I believe, I don't do this to sell a bunch of stuff at a vintage market. I do it ultimately for an advertisement package for myself. I truly believe that if I get people to come to Kitsap County and see all of the great vintage options we have, from Port Orchard to Paulsbo to Bainbridge Island, Bremerton to Silverdale, they will return. People are willing to drive for treasures. We have people from all over. Our goal is Oregon, Idaho, Washington, and we had a lot of people from Canada last year. We had an average, which was amazing. We sold out of hotels in Bremerton, Silverdale, and I think the nearest one that we found after that was Paulsbo. So it was neat to see that on a weekend in March. But again, we're doing this in May, so that's why I'm coming again to ask for funding, because it is taking a leap of faith. We estimate, my biggest thing is tourism, because if people come and they stay in a hotel, they stay overnight, they will probably come to my shop, and that's ultimately where I want them to go, is into local businesses in Kitsap County, local restaurants. One of the things we're going to give each customer that comes in is a map of the event, but also a map of where to eat, dine, and shop in Kitsap County. And also tourism things that we just have here. Once people come, they love to come back. I don't understand why people think Kitsap's so far from everywhere, but once they come here, it's been amazing to see people's response. We plan to have over 100 vendors. We're definitely on track for that right now. We are at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds, and we're taking all 3 buildings again. So we take the Pavilion, President's Hall, and the Van Zee. And the reason we do that is because of parking. We always have a situation at that location. So we just take it all, and we try to find good things to pack it with. I don't believe in diluting the event either, so we'll bring in things like a car show in one of the buildings. So it not just attracts a woman, but maybe her husband will go to that, and that's always been successful. Our marketing proposals, typically, we do a ton of social media. That's where it's at for our customers. We're definitely going to do mailings. We do postcards. We work a lot with Patty at Visit Kitsap, and that is, well, actually, I should tell you the changes we are making this year. We are going to be doing a lot of classes. That is the newest thing to happen at any kind of event. We're going to do a lot of speakers and presentations. So I just had a friend who actually wrote an amazing book. She lives in Seattle, and she's going to come and speak. And so when a person comes, we want to capture them at our event for 5 to 6 hours. So lots of food, lots of coffee, and lots of presentations and stuff that they can do. Plus, we promote a whole weekend package. So come Friday, leave Sunday. And then we promote, some hotels within Silverdale, and this year we're going to again spread out to Bremerton and Paulsbo. Going junking, as they call it, has just become a huge thing, and I feel like the fairgrounds and Puyallup or King County, they've all got it dialed in, and I really want to keep on dialing it in for Kitsap. But this year, again, I'm shifting my event. So that brings up a little hesitation because it's not the same thing, but I feel like we're really strong on the right track, and there's been a great response. So I'm here applying for the money this year again, the grant.
First question for me is, how many people came last year?
We were down to 5,900.
Okay.
So in the year before that was...
Down to 5,900.
It's an expensive event, but again, when I first started it 5 years ago, this will be my 6th year I'm going into actually, I said I can either spend $5,000 in a newspaper, or I can spend $5,000 putting on a great event and targeting my direct demographic. And honestly, I started in Annapolis, which was a tiny, like 1,500 square foot building, and now I'm in downtown, and my building's 15,000 square feet. And I truly believe that 90% of it is because of Redeem Revival, which I have customers all the time that are coming from Puyallup and Kent and Seattle. So it gets me excited because they come all the way to Port Orchard just to visit my shop and other shops like mine. So my event, as much as I love it for that weekend, my projection is more long-term. I want to see, again, I'm sorry, those customers continue to come back.
What is the price of each ticket?
Friday night is called VIP Access, so it's $15, which is standard. It's typically can be up to $20 at a lot of other events. They get in early access in both days, Friday and Saturday. Friday from 5 to 8 is just $5, and then Saturday is $7 from 9 to 4.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the difference between this and your other events that you did?
Well, the big difference for me this year is we're going to the big building, which is a huge thing. We had the big building one year, and it was the great windstorm, and I could never afford to go back in that building. But I feel like if we don't put our best foot forward and really step up the event this year, it has a chance of kind of dying down. So we're going to be in the big building. We're going to have a lot of classes, a lot of hands-on stuff. It's called a country vintage fair because we're going to do more stuff targeted to families. We're in a very high family area. A lot of places like Puyallup, it's just mainly women. At our event, we have kids, men, everything. So we're going to be doing a lot of classes for kids. My parents are part of a nonprofit car club, and they're actually going to be doing a car show, but also giving information for people on their cars, on what to do. So we're trying to make it more of an experience than just a shopping event this year. And between the presentations and classes, I think that's one of the biggest differences. We're also doing things like face painting. We're doing a lot of things like just more carnival, kind of to spruce it up a little bit, because unfortunately there's so many markets out there that if you don't make your event different, then they just become like everybody else's. So we're really doing a lot of different spins on it.
And how many times have you got the event fund?
3.
For 3, so this would be,
Well, I'm hoping that you guys see this as a different event, because I'm going in with a partner, which I've never done. And we're changing the date, and we're changing, it's somewhat vintage, but we're trying to add other things to it. Or we're not trying, we are adding other things to it. So to me, if we don't change, I don't see the projection of Redeem going well. If we stay in March, last year we had a ton of issues with weather, and it just kind of kills the event when it's 30 degrees outside and all the roads are frozen. So we had to change to May, and then also change some of the things that we're doing through the event.
it does kind of seem like the same event, though, with just a different name.
Okay,
I mean, it does.
yeah. Fair enough.
Other questions?
I have a question, Darren. How much do you think the food truck fest that'll be held on one of the same days as yours that will contribute or detract from your event?
I would hope it contribute, just because it's a different demographic. So Sunny, that was supposed to be here tonight, proposed doing her event on my event. I get a lot of people that, when I do events, like we're thinking about doing a Christmas one, we're doing some other stuff, want to join with us. So she's proposed to do a food truck, Northwest Food Truck Festival on this Saturday of our event. And she wants to work with us, which I'm totally excited about. But I think it would attract a different demographic again, that would also attract a different demographic to Kitsap County. So I think it could be beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there enough parking for both events?
There is, because I rented all the buildings. I've always ran into this problem at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds. There's actually been years where I've rented the pavilion, but I've never used it, because the pavilion has the majority of parking. And when we had 9,000 people between the 3 buildings up top, there was no parking. So pretty much essentially every year I've tried to rent it, but I've never filled them. This year I'm going to actually fill all of those buildings. So,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Mike, why don't you give just a rundown of what other organizations, or if there are people who are watching, or for word of mouth for the people who are here who might want to tell a friend, what are the kind of events that we would sponsor through our event fund?
We've had a wide-ranging number of events and types, particularly at the fairgrounds. We have previously sponsored the wrestling tournaments that occur in November and December. 3 different ones that we've sponsored that went on to self-sufficiency and continue to exist today for wrestling competitions that draw wrestlers from across the state to compete. We've had a variety of different events that take advantage of the facilities that are available at the fairgrounds, and all of them are designed to draw people from outside the area as widely as possible, and that's why we provide the funding for promotion and marketing of those events in order to enhance the economic development benefits of utilizing the fairgrounds.
And we have 2 different times throughout the year when people can come and ask for those event funds. January is always one of those times. The other time is it July?
It is in June, actually. So, yes, we have 2 opportunities because events are scattered during the year. We try to do it so that there's a convenient opportunity to apply for funds and get approval for funding if that comes far enough in advance to be able to take advantage of that promotion and advertising money far enough ahead of time to be able to benefit their event. So yes, we do January and June, and those are the times, and there are schedules posted on the website explaining A, the EventFund principle, B, the guidelines for applying, and C, the schedule on which to submit those applications. And I would like to emphasize that it is for not just the fairgrounds, but the other facilities that we have funded in the past. And that is the Kitsap Conference Center and the North Kitsap Regional Event Center. We haven't had as many applications for those, but it is available at those locations as well.
Again, we budget $25,000 this year for this purpose. And last year, if memory serves, we did not use all of our budget
No, we
for
did not.
event funding. And so just to make it known to the public that this money exists, and we'd like to have more people ask for event funds. Now,
And in the future, as we add new facilities to our arsenal of places where this can happen, that will widen the number of locations at which events like that can be done. So
All right.
it'll get more creative in the future because we'll have a more diverse type of facilities on which to rent.
at this point, I'd like to have us vote on the two event funds. We'll do them separately. First, the Junebug Flea Market. Can I have a motion for the funding of that event fund?
I move to fund.
Second.
All right, and now can we have discussion? Is there any discussion as far as this event fund?
I think the only thing I want to say is that continuity is really important for people to know, and as this will be the second year at the fairgrounds, that it'll be interesting to see what the growth is here, because that will lead to a third year, because people will expect it there.
And who was the second?
Bill was.
You'll have to speak up or get closer to the microphone, Bill. I didn't
Okay.
hear it. Okay.
Any other comment? All right, all those in favor, aye, for the total of 5,000?
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, congratulations, Jane, and I hope your event is a great success. 4C now, the Country Fair Vintage Market, Josephine's, with Samantha Smith. Can I have a motion for the funding of that event?
I'd like to move we fund that event for $5,000.
And a second?
I'll second.
Now discussion. Thoughts, concerns, questions?
For me, it kind of sounds like the same that we did before. And it's us that limit it to 3 times. I mean, we can do it as many times as we want. But I think that if we're going to do it beyond that, and just when the name gets changed, maybe we should put that out there that you're not limited to 3, so we can keep going.
Yeah, I think having a limit is a good thing, just because we want to give an understanding to different organizations that we want you to become self-sufficient, and we want to be able to promote other events and not just the same ones year after year. But in this case, not using all of our event fund last year and having 25,000 and only 2 requests at this point that would take 10,000, and that it's such a successful event that brings so many people to this side of the water, I think in this case it's a good idea.
Well, it does sound a little bit like the same event. However, major decisions have been made to move it to a different date and to expand it. I think that, if we would have had 7 applications for funds today, I would have probably not made a motion to approve this, but we only have 3. This is a great event, and I think clearly she knows that she's going to be really looking at next year at possibly not getting funding from us. So I think this is a good investment on our part, and it does bring a fair amount of people to the county. So I just think we need to approve it.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like the bad guy because you have done a great job in the past. You really have. So I just wanted to make it clear on that, whether we're going to have a limit or not. I'm okay with the job you're doing. So.
All right. With that, then, let's vote. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right. The funding is approved for Samantha Smith and the Country Fair Vintage Market.
And can I bring up one more thing about
Yes,
the event?
please.
I know we brought it before, but I would like to have a way maybe where the VKP could get the money from us and then they dole it out. Because, and this isn't towards you guys at all, but we've had some other ones where we really don't know where the money's gone, you know, and we don't get anything back. And we've had like the film producer or whatever.
Well, yeah, that was a total bust,
Yeah.
but anyway,
So,
yeah.
I would feel more comfortable if maybe we would somehow, we don't have to do it for this one, but come out where we give the $5,000 to the VKP with our list of guidelines, and then they pay for the advertising. They do all that, and then they give us a itemized list back of what they've spent.
Yeah, we can discuss that with Patty and the VKP, but it's up to the board if they want to
Right.
change that process. That can be discussed and decided. Both of these organizations have discussed, and as has the third, all three of these have discussed with Patty and the VKP, and there has been some revision in a couple of the applications as a result of those discussions. So they're typically involved in the process anyway. But it's a question of, whether we want to make that funding decision yourselves as the board, or whether you want that handled, the process and the money handled by a different organization.
Yeah, I don't think it was the funding decision we were talking about. Do we give the money out in advance, correct? We don't request receipts and reimburse? How have we done it?
Yeah, we request an after-event report on which you tell us the details about what went on, how many people showed up, all of these, yeah.
Well, that's why I think that's what we're talking about is, getting him to see what the money was spent on. And it's because we've had a bad experience. So if we're going to involve VKP, it's not in terms of agreeing to fund it. We would say, here's the money, you get the receipts, make sure it's all legit.
In the 12 years that I've been doing this with the EventFund, there have been 2 total busts. One was a baseball tournament that was done by the guy that was the part or whole owner of the Blue Jays, in which he didn't negotiate the right event, and we lost that. He moved to Port Angeles and hasn't responded to many requests for reports or explanations, whatever. The other was the flim-flam man from the film industry that was going to do a film
International
festival, International Film Festival in Bremerton, of all places. And that never happened either. And I also have never gotten a response from him after many requests for explanations.
Yeah, we've had other ones. We've had the track and field where they bought shirts and clothing items for all of them before. Do you remember that one?
The track and field one
They bought shirts
was
for
up in
everybody.
Paulsbo.
Yeah, and we had said that wasn't authorized, but it was already done,
Yeah, I don't remember the exact details of that, but yeah.
Mike, would you also share with everybody what is VKP?
The what?
What is the VKP?
Visit Kitsap Peninsula. That's the tourism organization for Kitsap County. They receive funding from the county and cities, in order to put on a unified tourist program to draw tourists from all over the world, not just in this region, but from all over the world, to come to Kitsap County to enjoy what we live in every day and enjoy.
And to be clear, we're not trying to give away our funding ability or that decision. We're simply wanting, and I think it's a good idea by Pat, to use Visit Kitsap Peninsula and their expertise for how do we best promote these events, as well as have them be the ones to check to make sure that we're using the money appropriately, that there is some accountability there.
And we do that. It may not be obvious, but Patty and I work closely together on these. When an application comes in, we both get together and discuss them. We give feedback primarily through VKP about the best way to capitalize on their target markets and the mechanisms that VKP can provide through their extensive electronic media campaigns that they run all the time.
I just want to say, I think Pat has a good idea. I think we need to make this happen.
So how about as far as how we make that happen? Mike, you'll talk with Patty.
Sure.
Propose however that mechanism is that we will use, and get that agreement signed up, because I think the board would like to support that.
We have a draft agreement along the lines of what we've done in the past few years that was to come up at the next meeting for what we contract with her for the 2020 year, or multiple years if we choose to do that. And if we're going to restructure that, we'll be happy to sit down with her and see what can happen.
All right, let's move on then to number 5, financial reports. Mike, can you walk us through these?
If I might propose, before we get into that, I wanted to bring up the possibility of doing the Port of Bremerton presentation, so that we may still get an opportunity to release Commissioner Bozeman.
That's totally fine. Why don't we do it so we don't have to ask you again to come up earlier?
Can we team up on that?
Yes, please.
Great. Thank you. It is my wife's 60th.
Yeah, I know, you keep blurting that out.
Are you gonna put it on TV? How old she is?
Almost.
Yeah, that just
Came
happened.
that close.
I hope it's a good gift that you got her.
Yeah, I did. I went to REI. Jimmy, are you going to sit down there?
I'll use this mic, and actually you can use that one.
So I'm Kerry Bozeman, and I'm the president of
Grab a chair on the other side and bring it over.
the Port Commission this year, and Jim Rothland is our CEO, and Mr. Strucklejohn down there is a Port Commissioner. Thank you for hearing to us tonight. We're not here representing Circuits of the Northwest. We're here representing the Port of Bremerton. And we're here to talk about 2 projects that have been encompassed in the Circuits of the Northwest request to you in previous meetings. One is the EVOC Center, and Jim is going to talk about both these projects. And the second is the STEM Center. What we're doing here tonight is try to clarify the difference and the track and these 2 projects. What we're going to do tonight is ask you to consider, because I'm aware that maybe you haven't decided on your final financing for big projects yet, and if there's an opportunity, we would like you to consider financing both the STEM Center and the EVOC Training Center, and we'll talk about those. Both those projects would cost $6.2 million, $4.2 for the EVOC Training Center, and $2 for the STEM Center. But what I wanted to let you know tonight is the Port Commissioners have agreed that if we do get financing long-term from the PFD, the Port of Bremerton will agree to bond both those projects and begin construction right away. So we're willing to finance that. Most importantly, I want to say that we believe the track itself will be financed privately. That is the plan of the people who are involved with the track, is to finance that totally with private money. We also will share with you a little bit tonight, because I know part of your mission is economic development. The Port of Bremerton is one of the fastest growing ports in the state right now, and I thought I would share with you some statistics that we've just had. I've given you a handout on them. But real quickly, we own 1,700 acres at the port. Last year, we had 63 different companies as tenants in our port, and we created 2,400 directly related jobs to those tenants in our port. At the airport, we have over 80 hangars. We have 7 corporate hangars. We're building 3 new hangars this year. We're 100% occupied. In our marina, we have 793 slips. We're 100% occupied. Our total impact on this community in the Port of Bremerton is $455 million in sales output and 2,400 jobs. In Kitsap County, our impact financially is $1.1 billion and 5,600 jobs and $348 million in labor and income. I don't know who's larger than we are besides the shipyard and the hospital, but in terms of impact of jobs and sales in our community, we're one of the largest economic impactors in this community, and we're growing. We're building for the first time a new 17,000 square foot warehouse. As you've heard in yesterday's paper, Amazon looks like they're coming to our community, be a neighbor of ours. So things are growing rapidly, but that doesn't keep us from believing that the EVOC Center, which has been a training center, and I'm not going to repeat what you guys have already heard, for 40 years around here for the public safety agencies in our community will be going away in the next couple of years, because we're taking that track out of our inventory and we're moving to the other side of the highway. But the EVOC Center isn't part of the current plan, and neither is the STEM Center. And if we get funding from the PFD, we will move ahead and rebuild that EVOC Center, a better one, and we'll build a new STEM Center. So with that, real quickly, Jim, can you give a quick interview of both those projects?
Sure. I think you covered it pretty well, Kerry, and you've all heard this before, so I'm just going to really summarize. The EVOC is Emergency Vehicle Operator Course, and the area is designed to provide classroom and vehicle skills training to a number of public groups that require advanced wet and dry pavement vehicle control training in a controlled environment. So I know you've had the Sheriff's Department talk in detail how they use it, but it's also the Fire Department, other police departments, the ambulance, transit, and other driver skills programs that come through there. And as Kerry mentioned, the lease expires at the end of 2022 or sooner. If we end up doing development, then we will move forward with that. So we're really trying to find a place for them to go, because what we're being told is there is no other place to go. So it is important to the port. As far as the STEM Technology Center, we're currently in discussions with a company called Universal Technical Institute. They're an Arizona-based company, and they're interested in providing a wide range of educational opportunities for local and regional students, including vehicle design and manufacturing processes, vehicle physics and safety, gasoline and diesel engine operation, control systems, and computer management, diagnostic, maintenance, and repair techniques. So these things are technology that's not just used for the automotive industry, but it's also used for the boating industry and also used for the airport industry or the aeronautical industry. So it's important to us because of the airport. We see that not just helping with the automotive, but also the aeronautical industry that we're looking to grow. So the company that we're dealing with, we're actually going to meet with them in Arizona this week, and they're looking to lease a building. So it would be something that the port would take on and construct the building and then lease it to the end operator.
You know, in normal times, we might consider financing this ourselves and building them. We think they're both critical. We've got our biggest project, and the port itself is about a $15 million company. This next 3 years, we have to replace the entire Port Orchard breakwater, which is going to cost us somewhere between $15 and $20 million. So most of our bonding capacity will be taken up replacing the Port Orchard breakwater, which has been there for 40 years. We would have enough bonding capacity to finance, to get these projects built if we knew we had financing coming from the PFD. Axel, do you have anything to add?
Thanks, Kerry. A couple things. Don't intend to be redundant on the information. I realize that you've had several presentations on this and that there's a lot of information out there. And I just hope that this brings some clarity to what the actual public portion of this is. To go a little bit further, the EVOC, or the Emergency Vehicle Training Operator course, is not only used by every agency here in Kitsap, it's also used by agencies as far as Pierce and South King County as well. If we're unable to replace that facility, that training will leave and go outside of this county and have to be done elsewhere. And that will impact the budgets of every city in our community that we live in. So it will have long-lasting financial impacts on small cities that, frankly, are struggling to make their budgets today because they'll have to send that training elsewhere. They'll be paying overtime, road travel with their emergency vehicles, and so forth. So it's really to our benefit and public safety interest to keep that facility here in our county and of course, obviously, on public property. But, as you continue along with your process for reviewing funding this year, again, we're very committed at the Port. We're very supportive. We believe in this. We're looking at hopefully public funding for a public project in public property and for public use, for public safety and public employees. So it's a very public project. And again, we're very committed to it. And, as your board moves forward, we hope that you will see the value of that project.
The last time I spoke to this panel, I spoke in support of the Port Orchard project, which I think is a great project. I think all the projects that you've identified in your priority list are good projects. I love the Heritage Park project. I think these are good projects too. And if you make the decision to finance a little more than you maybe had thought originally, we'd like to be considered in that plan for these two projects. This is not a request for the track. That's being funded privately. It's a request for these two projects. And we would go ahead and build them. We'd build them right away. So I think that's it.
Any questions from the board?
Who would own these projects?
The port would own these projects. It's obviously it's public property. It's port property, which is public. The port would be owning these facilities, just as we do today.
And then what's the timing on the funding if you're bonding and the PFD is reimbursing? When do you see that would start to roll?
What do you think, Jim?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by the timing. I mean, the ideal situation, put it this way, would be that we set up the bonding so that it ties in with coordinated payments through the PFD funding.
Right, and when would those payments start, do you think?
They would start as soon as we can get them. I mean, that would be ideally what we want to do. What we would like to do is to tie in the payments on the bond with the receipt of the PFD funding. That's the ideal situation.
Okay, and I think what you're saying is you're ready to roll on that now.
Yes.
We are.
Okay.
We're totally committed to these, the need for these two projects. Now, if we don't get the funding, chances are they won't be built right away because we have other obligations for the next 2 or 3 years.
Any other questions?
Who's going to maintain these?
That's a good question. We talked about that the other night, who would actually manage and maintain the facilities. We're going to be responsible for that happening, but who would manage them and maintain them, we haven't decided that yet. School district is very interested, obviously. There's a good chance they might be able to manage and maintain. We'd put together some kind of relationship. The EVOC Center, same with the public safety organizations in our community. There's an opportunity we could put together a coordinated effort with them. It's just we haven't drawn that up. We'd be responsible for making it happen, though. We own it. It's on our property. We'd put the management deal together.
So would they be standalone facilities apart from the track, or would they be part of the track?
Well, they're on the same site as the track, but they're basically a standalone facility. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the EVOC Center would be built totally from the ground up as just an EVOC Center, nothing else?
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the answer to the question, where would they go? I think they could go to Shelton. I think there's some kind of facility in Shelton. No, actually?
I don't believe so. I think in our conversations with our first responders, I don't believe that the Shelton track is set up to do that
Accommodates it
sort of driving.
as a training center?
Practice those driving skills.
Okay. I just want to end by saying I've sat on this board before. I made the presentation for the Kitsap Conference Center years ago. I really appreciate the job you guys are doing. Not easy. All projects are good projects.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, let's skip back up to 5A. Mike, will you walk us through those?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job. Okay, monthly reports. Let me get my files out here so that we can deal with this. In your packets, you have a couple of reports for the sales tax rebate summary, one for November and one for December. I'll start with November fairly quickly. The income was $161.9 thousand. That was up 8.3% over last year, in this case over 2018. The debt service for November was $60,000 instead of the typical $70,000, and this sometimes happens when the debt service payment is made. At the end of the year, there's a combined principal and interest debt payment, and there is frequently an adjustment of some size to account for some overage or underage. In this case, it was a $10,000 more had been collected over the year's period, so the debt service was only $60,000 instead of $70,000. That gave us a net of over $100,000, $101.9. Expenses in November, $10.5 thousand, meaning that the net to cash in the 96977 account was $94,100. Any questions about that report? The next is the December 2019, and this, at this time of the year, is always a preliminary. The county will go through the closing of the fiscal year. There is frequently some additional items that need to be transacted in 2019, and there are sometimes adjustments. It doesn't frequently affect us, but just so that you're aware of that. The income for the month of December was $148,500. Interestingly enough, that was down a whopping 0.1% from last year. But it is the second month during the year that we did have a decline. Don't know yet whether that's a harbinger of further declines or other information. I'll continue to monitor that as that occurs. The debt service was the new amount that will be deducted for the debt service for the balance of 2020, and that is $70,800 instead of the $70,000 previously. The net was $77.7 thousand. The expenses for the end of the year were a little higher with some other items that I can identify for you. $23,200, needing the net to the 96977 cash account was $54,500. Just as a note, down at the bottom of the yellow area on your report is the amount of debt service that was paid in 2019 was $838,589. Any questions about the income, expenses, and the tax rebate revenue summary report?
I'm not sure where to look on the other statements, but I'm just wondering what the net to cash is, less all expenses. So I know what the debt service was, I know about what our budget was, so what was our net to cash last year?
In total?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that on one of these reports?
Yeah. Let me... Okay, on the color-coded report, where there are several columns of different colors, yes. The next to the last column is the 977 account, and toward the bottom where the you have
I got it. So the $1.8 million
revenue and
less the $1.2 million.
expenditures, and the net, the total equity, if you will, is $601,800. So that basically is the amount that was added to the 96977 general account as a result of the income, expenses, and debt service payments. And that's what brought the current ending balance, including items that are invested in the investment pool in the county or that may be in transition in accounts, just a little over $3.1 million that we have as accessible cash. And again, we have the $500,000 that we have committed to the Parks District if they ever get around to giving us a plan for the Lobie Field improvements that were projected. We had been discussing reserving money for the Phase 2 commitment that we made in the middle of the year. One of the blanket vouchers that you'll receive tonight is the final payment of that $502,300 commitment that we made in June of last year, and that will be paid off, and it will have been paid out of our cash reserves, and yet at this point we still have, actually basically we got more money in than we're paying out, so that the 977 fund increased anyway.
All right, any other questions for Mike on the financials? All right, let's move forward then to the blanket voucher.
And the blanket vouchers that you have in your packet, there are 3 of them. The first one is the typical operating expenses of the KPFD, and that is an amount of $8,416.16, and that includes the legal expenses and others, but that's fairly typical. The one thing that you don't see on the blanket voucher that makes our expenses in a given month higher is my salary and any overtime that I've spent that's included in the monthly expenses when it's reported by the county and by our accountant.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
On the agenda, it's got B, that blanket voucher at 8,004, and on the voucher we've got in our hands, there's an additional 360 for Accountability Plus, so the voucher is actually 877.
Yeah, you're right.
That's okay. No, I'm just looking here. Thank you. This is the one we have to sign.
Why didn't that show up on there?
Good catch. Before I was looking at a draft agenda.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So I thought, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
$877 is $776.16.
Yeah, I think the difference is just the bookkeeping fee.
Yeah,
So I assume it got added in and just didn't get updated on the agenda. Is that correct?
that's correct. The
Okay.
blanket voucher states that correctly, but you're correct. I didn't get that translated into an update on the agenda item.
Any other questions with that? Otherwise, can we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve for the amount of $8,776.16 for voucher 540415.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, motion to approve. I'll pass it down to you for signing, and then Mike, for our next blanket voucher.
Yeah, the next voucher is for the Board of Directors members stipend, which is a $50 per meeting allowance plus mileage. Each one of the amounts per director is different, but the total is $854.16. The packet that you have in your blue folder, Darren, includes the TC50s, which are the expense form, and each of you needs to sign your appropriate form and also to sign the voucher on the front.
All right, can I have a motion to approve
We approve the voucher.
and a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, motion carries to approve the blanket voucher. Mike, two questions on the signing of these. There is a signature space for the area of claimant. There is also a signature space for approved by. In this case, when we're signing ours, we would sign it as claimant, but who
Correct.
does the approved? Is that Walt?
No, that goes to the audit department, and they sign that approval.
For Kitsap County?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the
In
same,
my case, because I sign as the claimant for mine, I need to have one of the officers, typically it's Walt, but either you or Bill should also sign my TC50 form.
And your TC50 form is this form?
No, that's the kind of yellow-colored one that's in the packet itself.
Okay, so we should sign for that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
One that you held up is the payroll authorization, which you and Bill can sign.
There are spaces for 3 signatures. I know Walt, as our treasurer, usually signs this one. His signature isn't on this one. Is that still fine? Do we want a third signature?
That can be signed by only one director and be approved by the audit department.
Okay.
If there's 2 on there, then
All right.
it's a bonus.
Thank you.
If all 3 of you are present, then that's a gold medal.
All right. On to our third blanket voucher, the Port of Bremerton Circuit of the Northwest. Mike, will you speak to this?
Yeah, as we have had these through the second half of the year, there's been 2 components to this. One is a personal consulting portion, and the other is the technical or professional consulting. The addition of those 2 is $90,214, and a full set of construction plans has been delivered to the Port of Bremerton and a copy given to me. So that is basically concluded on the technical end as far as I'm concerned and as far as the port is concerned. So there will not be any more invoices from the port for the Phase 2 portion of the funding that we granted to the Circuit of the Northwest project.
And that is because we have paid it in full.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in actuality, just a point of information, the port contacted me and requested permission to pay the contractor by the end of the year. They sent their invoice in on December 2nd, which was the day of our board meeting last month, and it was not possible for me to get it processed and into a blanket voucher for our meeting on the 2nd, so it was going to carry over to January. They asked permission to pay the contractor within the month of December in order to close their books, and I gave them permission to do so with the expectation that it would get approved and passed at this meeting.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the blanket voucher for Port of Bremerton Circuit of the Northwest?
I move we approve the blanket voucher for Circuit of the Northwest and Port of Bremerton.
And a second?
I second.
And any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion is passed. Okay, that completes financials for agenda number 5. Let's skip back down to agenda number 6. We have already heard from the Port of Bremerton, and let's now enter into our Department of Commerce feasibility review process discussion. Mike, will you lead us for that?
Yes, thank you. As we've discussed a couple of times, or maybe more in the past, with the anticipation of a Department of Commerce feasibility review that's required of all PFD construction capital projects, we've been unsure exactly how this is going to be handled by them and when. I originally got some information that I fed back to you that a ILA, or the signing of an ILA with a partner, could trigger a feasibility review. when I fed that information back to the Department of Commerce and provide copies of the ILAs that had been signed. At that time, it was the Port Orchard and Paulsbo. The county hadn't signed their ILA yet. I provided that information to them and indicated that there was a third ILA, and I did provide some financial information for that ahead of the signed ILA. I received a response back from the Department of Commerce that said they wanted to do some pre-feasibility review examination of the data and the circumstances under which we're financing capital projects. Because the PFD does not own and operate them, the financial liability is significantly different than it is for a PFD that owns and operates and absorbs all of the costs and liability of the operation of that facility. What they've chosen to do, or they asked permission to do, which was very nice, was to send that information and financial data and the plans, the early plans, to one of their consultants and to ask him to look at the projects and determine if these would need to be handled individually, or because we're not going to be financially responsible for these, whether they could be studied in together and to look at the potential financial impact on the PFD under current circumstances. I agreed that they can do that, so that's what's happening now. They're providing that information to one of their consultants, and at some point in the near future, I don't know how long this will take, we'll get an answer back from them that will say, A, you have to do these individually, or B, we can submit them in aggregate, and then we can find out exactly what kind of information, what level of speculation, what level of planning and preparation that needs to occur to give them as good a financial information as is needed to be able to make a decision. So this has gone from indeterminate to, oh, maybe everything on an ILA to we're going to get a difference of opinion sometime in the near future as to what the Department of Commerce will be looking for from us in order to do a study or 3 studies.
Thank you for that update. Anybody on the board have a question for Mike regarding this process?
And I wouldn't be surprised if you did.
Yeah, please, please. Mayor Patansu.
Yes, thank you, and for allowing me to address you. Mike and I have been in conversation multiple times about this subject matter because it's task 1 in our ILA with you. And so I did, what Commerce has to say, I guess, affects our timing. So based on what I'm hearing this evening, I think we need to pause on we need to probably, we will conduct our process and interview consultants, but we need an indication here from Commerce whether we're on firm ground or not, or we need to do a study. Otherwise, I don't want to write checks that you can't cash or reimburse me for. So I guess I hope to hear more on this. What we kind of gotten the indication that we're going to conduct a feasibility study of our own much farther into the process once we figure out what all the uses are, how many square feet this building, and what it's going to cost us to operate it. That's where our concern comes from, is we've got to know, as you are going to want to know too, what it's going to cost to operate it and how expensive it's going to be. But this is an independent process, I understand now, from the Commerce.
Well, yeah, there are two different processes. You need that information in order to make your own decisions about how to proceed forward. Mm-hmm. The Department of Commerce is not looking at the feasibility of your project. It's looking at the feasibility of whether the PFD can financially fund and or support that project, or in this case, series of projects. Mm-hmm. So they're two different subjects and on two different things. You're looking at the project itself and what the city is going to need in order to do the planning and preparation to build such a facility. And that doesn't have any bearing on what decision that the Department of Commerce is going to make, and they don't make a decision up or down anyway. All they do is report back and say all of the financial data and planning and construction data has been analyzed, and it appears that the PFD has the wherewithal in order to proceed to fund this project. So it's kind of eggs and bacon.
And
whether they make
I'm
a breakfast,
but 5 or 6 weeks from selecting a consultant and entering into a contract. So I think we've got time, as long as Commerce isn't going to take 3 or 4 months.
Well, but that's what concerns me, is because I saw a number up to 24 months that they've changed their whole process. So I think it said in that email than they had in the past. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to be aggressive in when we're dealing with them, because as you said, Mike, they're worried now about whether we have the resources to abide by the contract we have. And from everything that I've seen,
I didn't interpret it that way, Bill.
Well, whatever they're doing, I see them as a bureaucratic wall to people that want to do things. And I was really concerned when I saw that they've changed their process, and now it's lengthier than it was before.
They didn't change the process. The demand on their abilities to do studies has increased, and so that's lengthened the time. But that lengthened the time from 2 to 4 months to 3 to 6 months for them to be able to do a study once they've said, we're going to do a study on this X. So what they're trying to figure out now is what X is. Is X 3 different projects that they're going to study separately, or this is Y when we're going to look at all of these together and the potential demand on the resources of the Kitsap PFD and whether that's reasonable or financially available or not. I don't see it as 2 to 3 years at all.
I'm just worried that if we're not aggressive with them, this is going to drag on.
No, I understand. I'm going to continue to ask for information and ask for the results. I'm not going to let them forget us, but this is the first time that they've done this.
I know.
So
and that sends a red flag up right there. and I'm telling you, I've been around a long time, and if they don't respond appropriately, we need to talk to our legislators, and we need to have them find out why. I'm hoping that nothing goes wrong, okay? But when you just talked to them a couple of months ago, and now in that time period they've changed the process, and they've lengthened the time that they take to make a decision. That's a red flag to me.
Okay. Do you have the years of experience in political and public management, finances, and everything else. I'm the eternal optimist, and, you know, I tend to judge things
I'm an
as...
optimist too, but I also have dealt with state government for a long time in these departments, and I'm telling you, their attitude toward these things are not what ours are.
I would also like to interject and say I'd like to be known as an optimist. But beyond that, to give a little bit of historical information, this is a response to a PFD who owned their own facility, who ran their own facility, and who went bankrupt. And my understanding is, and please correct me, is that this is not a study that tells us we cannot give money to the city of Port Orchard to build this event center. It is a warning for us to consider that we don't have the funding stream to pay for it. Is that accurate?
I think that's more accurate, yes, because it was as a result of the Wenatchee failure, which was eventually rectified, and they've continued to operate, but it did make a significant financial impact on both the city of Wenatchee and on the state, which is why they put this in place. And
can I do a follow-up question then, which would be, if the city of Port Orchard is our #1 project, and we have projected through financial advisors that we will bring in somewhere between $16 million and $45 million or $46 million over the next 15 years of extended funding, that it would not seem to me that you need to be concerned, because the way that we have stated it publicly and with our decision was that you are going to receive the $12 million that we have promised you. And so you are our #1 project. That's our commitment to you. Correct?
yes, and I think that whatever led to the lengthening of the length of time that it takes to do a study was, in our case, was not due to any change in process. It's the fact that we're different. Every other PFD has to go through that process because they own and operate the facility, and the liability is greater for every one of those operations. When they finally looked at our financial information and project information, I think they realized that we are an odd duck. We're going to be funneling a lot of money into different projects, but we don't own and operate them. So we don't have the liability that the other PFDs do. Now, what they come back with when they analyze our data and what their consultant says, we don't know, because this is the first time it's ever happened. So it's just different. It's not that negative for much.
So right now, they're looking at our projects to decide whether they review them as 1 or 3.
Correct.
And we don't have a time frame on how long that will take?
I do not.
Do we have a wild guess?
Pardon?
A wild guess? Because then the process will start, and we're looking at 3 to 6 months, right? That's what you just said. It went from 2 to 4 to 3 to 6. So we've got an unknown period right now.
Correct.
Before that time starts on the 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. And they may come back and say, okay, we think this should be done individually, but it still may be that they don't need to do that until there is a commitment to construct and the bonding or financing necessary for that construction. That's the other key point at which that's going to occur. If we were 6 months from construction with Port Orchard, we would want to make sure that we'd have all of the information that's been developed by Port Orchard in the Department of Commerce's hands, so it could be considered and get an answer back before that construction commit date happens.
So that actually brings my question up of how can we even put them all into one to be reviewed when they have different timeframes. We're not going to be, I mean, these projects aren't all starting at the same time. There's a lot of different timetables, so.
Yes. And
Does it make sense to be reviewing them?
As much as I have, well, I don't know. And we're going to have to wait and see what the consultant says. We have a potential commit date on construction with the ride park, which is already in permit request. So they could come back in a month or two and say, we got our permits, we're going to go to construction. Now, the question is the county going to pay for that and we pay them back on demand? In other words, when they go through the progress of that project, we're going to be paying it back in smaller increments like we did with phase 2 of the racetrack? Probably. And what we've heard tonight is even if we did a commitment to construction of the STEM or EVOC facilities at the Port of Bremerton, they'd pay for that and we'd pay them back in smaller increments.
But, and I guess I don't really understand where the Department of Commerce comes in being able to say yes or no if we're allowed to do something. If
They don't.
They don't?
They don't.
They
Okay,
only
explain.
recommend as to whether we have the financing capability to
Okay.
pay for the
Yeah.
commitment we've made.
It's in the statute.
So we could just move ahead and do it anyway?
Might be in violation of state statutes, so.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
can't move ahead?
Yeah.
But they don't, they have a right to slow us down, but not say no?
Yeah.
Is that-
In most cases, yes, because this, as I'd mentioned before, whatever the Commerce Department decides, it's not an up or down. It's you can do this or you can't do this. This is risky. Proceed at your own risk. I don't think that they can say, we think there's so much risk on this that you shouldn't do this. I don't think they've ever done that.
Brian is not here tonight, but this is a good question to have him
Sure.
give a ruling on. But Mayor Patansu, does that give you any
Yeah.
more confidence? Or what are the questions that you want us to make sure that we answer for you?
I'm glad I was here tonight, and I think after I brief my city council tomorrow night, we should move ahead with what it is we're doing with our RFP process.
Yes.
And I think we should select a consultant to do that work. I would say I would want to pause at that moment in time, and I think the timing is probably about your March meeting. I don't know where that's going to be yet, but I'll make sure I'm at your March meeting and we check in. And we might need to pause until, hopefully Commerce is, in that 6 weeks, has given us the thumbs up and we move ahead. My only reservation, I appreciate your commitment and reaffirmation of that. We've got a clock tick, our agreement has a timeline on it, and if Commerce, I'm not, we're not ready to go for construction, and that doesn't concern me as much as if I lost the commitment. If this drug out 6 months, God forbid, 9 more months, I would just hope that when we get to, we're going to run out of time in our agreement, and that we're going to have to probably extend timelines if Commerce slows us down. That'd be my only concern.
So Mike, if we were to add, for instance, STEM or EVOC in 3 months, would that reset the Commerce clock for this? Or would they just?
I don't know the answer to that. I can make an assumption.
Let's,
I think whether
let's
it's-
go and do the research and
Yeah.
not talk about possibilities, and we'll get a firmer understanding.
So we're going to proceed. I'll be back in touch when we're ready to proceed, and hopefully you're ready to proceed,
Yeah.
and Commerce
Yeah.
has given us permission to proceed.
Bill, thank you for pushing on us with this issue and getting it started previous to this as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for your indulgence.
The one thing I could say, I guess, Rob, is that I see these as two totally different assessments. Yours is internal to your community and your board, and your finances and capability. The other is studying us and determining our capability. So I think you have every right to proceed and determine what you need to do in order to figure out if that can be built and if you can fund it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to 6C, discussion of bonding financing strategy. We have talked about different ways of funding these projects that we have made commitments to. And if we are going to bond for them, if we are going to reimburse other people who are bonding for them, how can we make the most of what we have? And so the issue at hand, though, for tonight is when the seven of us can be together to have a robust conversation on this issue, because this is not a discussion we want to have when three of our members are not here. And so what I have asked Mike to do is to put out an email to each of you to get your commitments for whether you would be here, what meetings you will be here, or what meetings you would miss as far as what you know right now, so we could plan that discussion, or if we need to do a retreat and to give a couple of options for dates for doing a retreat together to discuss that issue. I would like to entertain your thoughts as to which you would prefer. Would you like to do it here in our regular board meeting? The advantage that I see to that is we have the cameras, we have the microphones, it's already publicly put out there to the community, and we have that discussion in a more transparent, with our community's eyes on us. The retreat still would be available to the public to attend. We would make the appropriate publicity, make that public at the appropriate time so people could attend. And it would give us a better, maybe a longer, more informal kind of time to be able to discuss. So wanted to hear your input as to which you would prefer.
I would prefer a retreat. I just think it would be, first of all, the setting would be much different, and I like a setting when we're talking about something like this where we're on a round table or a table that we're looking at each other and we can have really good discussions about a very important subject. With regard to making it more transparent, we could hold the meeting at the Silverdale Hotel in one of those bay rooms, and we could tape it. We do that already when we meet there for BCAT, and so there's no reason we couldn't do that also for the retreat. But I just think with regard to that, we know that it's what we're there to talk about and hopefully come to some decisions, whether we make them that day or the next meeting. But it's really set for that purpose, and we have an opportunity to have a more informal kind of setting than sitting up at a podium like this and the trappings that go with that.
Would we be having some of our bonding people there
Pardon me?
at a retreat?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just the seven of us.
We want to
talking
have our bonding company there, our financial consultants.
Yeah, okay.
And we want them to prepare stuff for us in advance. I would suggest that we have have our finance consultant work with Mike to give us some options. I mean, for us to sit there and talk about this without something really in front of us to say, well, I I like this option, I want to do a little bit different, whatever, but I just think we need to really do this. This is really important, I think.
Pat, your comments?
Yeah, I like the idea of a round table. The retreat, I mean, why not just have a special meeting or an extra meeting that's open to the public like an ordinary meeting? We can put the chairs however we want, have all the people there. It just seems like the retreat sounds like it's different than a meeting, and this is what
Make
it
it a
is.
special meeting, I don't care.
Yeah, and make it, I don't know, we can do it whatever time we want, really, and the evening would be better. Maybe start earlier if we need more time, and just have that as the only agenda item on there.
And
We can
one
do it
other
still
thing
around
to
hotel, we don't have to do it here.
One other thing to consider, I've called it a retreat, but the Board of Commissioners, other city councils don't have retreats, they have planning sessions. They're still public. They get a chance to discuss around the table, facing each other, exactly what it is that they want to talk about. They usually do several different topics, but we can focus on one area in financing and bonding, and it's up to you which experts that you want there. We have two people on contract, a bond attorney and a financial advisor. We have talked to two other advisors in David Tregesser and Caitlin Caldwell from Key Bank. They can be there or not, even though they're not on contract. They can provide information, perhaps, if we stipulate what it is that the information that we want and what things we want to consider. We can have anybody there that we want in order to have all of the information that's available when we say, oh, I don't know about this, Caitlin or Alan, what can we do about this? And then the resources would be right there for you.
I think the best way to proceed is, Mike, for you to put out that email, ask for a few dates for a planning session or for our meetings, and where we have commitments that all 7 of us would be there.
Okay.
That, I think, is very important. Work study session.
Work study session.
Thank you,
Right,
thank you.
That's right.
Okay, moving on to item number 7A, new business construction consultant RFQ discussion and approval. Mike, you've put this together.
Yeah, and I used a couple of sources for that. I looked at some other things online, but I drew a lot of the material for this directly from the material I found that was conducted, 19 years ago, 2001 or 2002. There was the similar kind of search for a consulting or a contracting consultant when Brewer Elmquist was selected. And so I drew on that and updated it, and so that's what I came up with, and wanted you guys to have your input, and if there's something that I didn't think about or that should be considered now that's different than what it might have been 20 years ago.
Any questions for Mike or any edits that you would add to this RFQ? All right, and on here, you have that you would like anyone who's interested to submit their qualifications by the end of February, and that interviews will be scheduled beginning March 16th. Is that still the timeline that you're hoping to carry out?
Yeah, my original timeline was a little more aggressive than that, but then I started looking at this and saying, okay, the directors may have some other questions or modifications Maybe I can't get it out immediately, but I will have to make arrangements to submit this to the papers, to put it on our website and make it available for people to see, and to put an ad in the paper and advertise as well as online. So we get as broad an audience for people that may want to work with us in support of these projects.
Would it be appropriate, would you like us to give you a motion to verify this, or to tell you that, yes, please send it out, or?
I think a motion to approve, if you want to stipulate a timeline or give me the authority to determine that, but I think a motion to approve so that we're all on the same page of what we're looking for and what we hope to achieve.
All right.
There is one small typo on there.
Where is it?
If you go down to new facility projects, down to the Port Gamble Heritage, I believe that should be park.
Page, yeah.
Usually you pick up on this.
I was reading fast.
Oh,
Well done.
Yep.
All right,
Okay.
can I have a motion
thank you.
with edits included
I'll move.
to
So
approve
moved.
this RFQ?
Yeah, yeah. I'll move to approve this for
And a second?
being sent.
I'll second.
Whatever.
Any discussion?
Just off the top of my head, so this is actually looking for a firm, not an individual, correct?
We have done it with an individual all this time for almost 20 years. I think it can be done with an individual. But we can hire a firm where there are more than one person that can apply on this. It's likely to wind up being more expensive.
Well, the reason I'm asking is number 2 on the evaluation. It says ability to assign staff members who will be available throughout the projects, and ability to assign equally qualified backup staff.
Yep.
That's either cloning themselves, or that's a firm with people in it. So
Yep.
I think we're talking about, I mean, if we're leaving that in there, we're kind of cutting out an individual. But that would be a tough job. You'd have to be working at call, you know.
Yeah, and that's what has been the case for many years with Broer. We have an update or something, or a project at one of the facilities. Broer would get involved for X amount of days or weeks or months, the length of time of that. And it's been possible to do that with one person.
Okay.
I looked at the fact that we may have 3 projects going at any given time, and it may be difficult for one individual to do that, and it may take a firm to do that.
No, I agree.
But a small firm could hire subcontractors, right?
If, for number 2, to take this issue off the table and give the flexibility, if we simply struck assigned staff members who will, so it read ability to be available throughout the projects and ability to assign equally qualified backup staff if necessary during periods of heavy workload, that would allow for that understanding of.
I agree.
Good?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So just strike assigned staff members who will. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The RFQ is passed, and that's a great person or firm to get in place for the year that we have and the years that we have in front of us. So thank you, Mike, for doing that.
Welcome.
7B and 7C, you have those printed reports in your folder. I'm going to suggest that you just make sure that you read those. For 8, for announcements, we have the KEDA Economic Forecast Breakfast, which Mike has invited all of us to. Please just let him know if you are planning to go. It is a wonderful event. It's always I think, very interesting to hear whichever economists they choose to bring in talk about what they expect for the coming year and what's happened over the past year as well. And then the WIDA Winter Conference, February 5th to 6th. With that, is there anything else before we adjourn for this evening?
I have one question. You had noted there's a couple of directors who need to get the PRA training. I think I'm one of those.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
And Bill Mahan is the other that
Okay.
have responded positively so far.
Will you send the link again? I know I meant to do it, and
Did you get my email on that?
Your email that says what?
I'm going to attend the January 31st meeting.
That you're attending.
I'm sorry.
Kita, that you're coming to Kita.
Yeah.
He's coming to the Kita breakfast.
The key to breakfast.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah,
my
I got
email?
you on the list.
Okay.
Patty is not able to attend, and she is sending Brenda, her new outreach manager, in her place. And I believe Lori Main will be there as well. I had hoped I might get a couple more directors at this meeting, but
I'm going to be there.
but Pat doesn't seem to be signing up, and
Yeah. And I
And
said
Rick
I'd
and
sit
Tom, I don't
with
know.
us, rather, because I'd already bought a ticket, so, right?
Yeah.
You got me, okay.
All right. Aaron, does that satisfy?
Yes, so you
your
send me,
question?
yeah, sorry, so just send me the link, and I will promise to take this thing. I keep thinking I've done it, but I haven't, so please send me the link again.
no,
Right.
I'd gotten a reply from you. I had you on the list.
No, I changed, okay, we just went back to the old conversation.
Oh.
We've just circled back around. I'm talking about the PRA request.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She would like the link again, if you
Yes.
would
Yes.
resend that
Okay.
email.
I will do that.
All right, with that, our meeting is adjourned.
You didn't.